Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
The Labour leadership stands accused tonight of being unwilling to deal with claims of systematic misogyny and the blocking of Muslim women as councillors in some areas by male members of the party or of Pakistani heritage. In a moment, an interview with a Labour MP who tells us he's felt pressured to be silent on things he knows to be true. But first, our latest report on this issue. Since Newsnight first revealed the intimidation and shaming of Muslim women in parts of the Labour Party 5 weeks ago, we've been told that some are actually being threatened with violence by sinister elements within their communities. In the weeks since that first report by our special correspondent Katie Razzle and producer Yasminara Khan, a number of other Muslim women have contacted us, often under the cloak of anonymity, for fear of reprisals.
We are talking about really sinister elements.
I had phone calls to say, your son is 5, do you want him to be 6?
You're doing this interview anonymously. Why is that?
The fear from Asian councillors. I live in fear for myself and my family.
"5 weeks ago, Newsnight broadcast claims by Muslim women that Muslim men from within the Labour Party block them from becoming local councillors. The charity Muslim Women's Network UK wrote to the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn demanding an inquiry into what it called systematic misogyny. A month on, more troubling claims have come to light.
We're talking about women actually fearing for their lives, saying we were getting harassed, threatened with violence. They're so scared they wouldn't want to go to the police and don't even want to come out publicly to share their experiences.
We're calling this Asian woman Zahara. A former Labour councillor, she makes pretty startling allegations about some of her Pakistani heritage former colleagues who are still Labour councillors today. On one occasion, she claims the police gave councillors sexually explicit video footage to watch before making a decision about whether a local club should be shut down.
The decision ultimately should have been to close the establishment down because of inappropriate behaviours going on of a sexual nature between young white girls and Asian males that were being shown in the video. I was clearly told to stop questioning by a hand gesture and a nudge by senior male councillors that were Asian sitting next to me.
And why were they doing that?
I was told, do you know who it is? It's a very prominent Asian businessman that supports us. It was a regular occurrence.
That is a very serious allegation.
I agree, it's very serious, but I think it's just second nature. Disgrace.
Zahara also says those same councillors regularly persuaded Asian women suffering domestic violence to go back to their abusers.
They would go to the councillors and they would be told, no, go back home. This is your lot. This is what happens. I stood up 2 or 3 times. Luckily, those women got away because I just persevered. Probably that was my downfall.
Newsnight's spoken to 25 Asian women across the UK. All complain of Labour councillors and members of Pakistani heritage who operate clan politics. They say they block vocal independent Asian women like Arooj Shah from entering local government or try to get them deselected if they do. In some parts of the UK, like in Oldham where Ms Shah is a Labour councillor, the party's taken over the process. She says that's because they know in her predominantly Asian ward there's even resistance from inside the Labour Party to a Muslim women representative.
There's Labour Party members who will support my 2 ward colleagues who are both Asian men, and then when it comes to me, will support anybody but me. And they are members of the local Labour Party.
And have you asked why?
I know why. I know why. It's because I'm a woman. That is the only issue they have. And anybody who tries to sugarcoat it or present it in any way is just lying, quite frankly.
Some of them have come out with derogatory comments like, oh, she's a Muslim woman, she shouldn't be representing us. but they've got to, and some of us have actually dragged them on side and said, look, hold on a minute, we've got to integrate. It's not a case of a Muslim woman. Where in Islam does it say a female cannot represent us?
Through all the attacks, personal attacks about me.
Councillor Shah told me influential local Labour members spread rumours that she sleeps around, that she's corrupt, even a money launderer, and brief against her to voters. The regional party supports her, but it's hard to gather the evidence to push through a successful complaint.
Stuff was posted through my letterbox, so when I opened it, it was a page 3, a picture of a page 3 nude model and a picture of my head attached to that.
Absolutely.
That's a tactic often used to dishonour Muslim women, and it's happened for decades.
Pornographic images with my face on. I have not spoken about this before. It is horrific. This is my little Umar.
Najma Hafiz was the first Muslim woman on Birmingham Council back in the 80s and 90s.
Was then the leader of the council. I had phone calls to say, your son is 5, do you want him to be 6?
Do you know who was making those phone calls?
Yes, I do.
Who was it?
It was one of my colleagues, so-called, and unfortunately, a member of my own community. 2016, we are still in that position. The only way we will stop it is by exposing this. It's not easy for me to say this against my own community, but it is bad practice and we must stop it.
Labour has a better record than other parties on getting minorities into government. But women we've spoken to say the party often turns a blind eye when Pakistani heritage members influence the democratic process by packing individual wards with family and friends. One woman said Asian councillors were threatening and scaring my family into getting me to step aside. Another said these men were capable of anything. In the end, I was deselected despite all my commitment to the party. Another ex-councillor explained how she was ousted. One of the local councillors had been recruiting family and friends to deselect me. Zahara claims her deselection was masterminded by some of her fellow councillors because she'd refused to give in to their demands.
It became very apparent on the night. These were people I'd never seen before.
Why were those people there?
They were told to be there by certain senior Asian councillors and to vote in a certain way. They don't know any different. It's generations of people who have done this. There were 2 or 3 young Asian males that found the courage to ring me up and tell me and said it's an absolute travesty. I sent letters of complaint to the regional office and to the head office of the Labour Party. I was told there was no case to answer.
Newsnight's seen other complaints from ex-councillors detailing what they claim were selection flaws and misogynistic practices. Most women told us their complaints weren't addressed. Several have since left the party.
Katie Razzle, the Labour Party gave us their statement in response to our story. The Labour Party has been at the forefront of the fight for women's equality. We have transformed the representation of women in politics and championed equality for women in the workplace. Any complaints or evidence of sexism, intimidation received by the Labour Party are dealt with fairly according to our procedures and the law. Well, earlier I spoke to the Labour MP for Luton South, Gavin Shuker, who has doubts about how this is being handled by the party. I started by asking him for his reaction to Katie's report.
Katie's film is really shocking, but I feel most shocked for the women who have had to come out and make this case. They deserve some cover from the wider Labour Party. It's clear that the stories that they were telling are ones that chime with my own experience, actually. I think we have a real problem in getting capable young women from the Asian community selected, and it's not good enough to just say we're the most representative party. We've actually got to uphold our values and our selection procedures as well.
Tell me, what about the issue in your own constituency? I know, you're not just interested in your own constituency, but tell me about your own constituency.
Well, I've worked very hard over the last 5 or 6 years to try and make sure that each of our selections at local government and also for the parliamentary seat have been done fairly. Now, the real problem is that in broadly South Asian communities and constituencies, it's quite easy to sign up a large number of your friends, your family, get them along to meetings. But this process is known as membership packing. It's expressly outlawed in the rules of the Labour Party.
Katie spoke to Najma Halafiz, who was involved in politics and who had been threatened. She was threatened that her son wouldn't reach his 6th birthday. Now, she seems quite bereft about what's going on just now, and I wonder if you think that things are not just as they were, but actually getting worse.
I don't know whether the situation is getting worse, but there's this huge upward pressure from the 2nd and 3rd generation, capable, educated people that want to be representatives of our party. They are consistently being frozen out of selection processes just simply because they are the most capable and therefore the most threatening. I don't know whether it's getting any worse, but the situation, in my opinion, and for those women, couldn't get much worse.
After you raised this with the General Secretary of the Labour Party, what was the response? What happened?
I raised concerns related to membership packing and what then came from it, which is essentially good, capable young Asian women not necessarily getting selected. Over a period of time that I've been a Member of Parliament, and also directly with senior officers in the party. But in my opinion, the things that I put forward were genuinely shocking, echo many of the things in this film, and yet still it feels like there's no support in terms of tackling these abuses on the ground.
Well, Katie Razzo got a response from the Labour Party which simply said that we deal individually with instances or allegations of instances of racism and sexism with the proper procedures. Is that enough?
Well, I have sympathy with dealing on the narrow point around abuses of rules or selections, but what we're talking about is a cultural issue that needs to be challenged at every single level, and that requires elected parliamentarians, politicians and party officials challenging that culture day in, day out.
Now, you talk about it being a cultural issue. It's not a religious issue, it's a cultural issue. In saying that, do you ever feel worried that you'll be fingered as some kind of racist?
I don't personally, because I feel like I'm representing my Muslim, Asian members who say to me consistently, we're good, we're capable, we're frozen out. Now, this is the challenge for the Labour Party, actually. It used to perhaps be we could rely on blocks and votes of communities. Now, I think that's less true. And so this isn't just a moral imperative, it's actually an electoral imperative. We can't carry on treating the Muslim community as fools. We need to serve up great candidates at every single level. The community knows when there are abuses of power.
And have you spoken to MPs with large South Asian communities?
Yeah, I have. And in those conversations, I think there is a sense in which if we were to kick up a fuss, would anything even happen? I have to say, as someone that has kicked up a fuss, they may be right, actually.
Is that not deeply depressing?
I find it really depressing and extremely brutal that a member of the Parliamentary Labour Party has to come out to provide cover for women in our community who are suffering as a result of our inaction on this.
But you talk about having spoken to officials, you talk about having spoken to the General Secretary of the Labour Party. What is it that you want them to do?
I've been disappointed with the response of the Labour Party in response to the allegations made by Newsnight. In recent weeks, when I've spoken up about this issue, I felt extremely pressured to be silent on the things that I know to be true, the issues that I've already raised. And I think in many ways it represents the culture of our party in some ways that we need to change. When people come forward with legitimate concerns, they should be backed, not silenced.
What do you want Jeremy Corbyn to do?
I would like robust action from the leadership, both in the Labour Party centrally, the NEC, but also from the leader of the Labour Party to say, look, if there are these practices, we will take the time to root them out. And more than that, where we've got people that are speaking up, we won't seek to silence them, we'll seek to listen to them and to work with them. Now that's something that Jeremy could do.
Thank you very much indeed.
I've been